Hi everyone, you're watching Halborn Flash videos. I'm Arabdha and today we are talking to Jan from Hathor Network. So Jan, welcome to our chat. Hathor actually claims that it's secure like Bitcoin, easy like Python, which is quite an interesting take on it. So I would ask you to maybe briefly introduce yourself, but tell us of course more about Hathor Network.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure to be here. I'm Jan Martens. I'm one of the co-founders of Hathor Labs, which is the main company behind Hathor Network. What is Hathor Network? As you said, we claim secure like Bitcoin and easy as Python. Basically, it's a layer one blockchain, so a protocol we've built from scratch based on the PhD thesis of our CTO, Marcelo. He proposes different architecture for DLTs for blockchain networks, which is actually a mix of a traditional blockchain and also a DAG of transactions, direct cyclic graph. He made that this new architecture due to scalability. For scalability purposes, why don't you have scalability without giving up decentralization? And on top of that, we always wanted to make it easier for anyone who wants to use the blockchain, not just about the end user, but anyone like builders and developers who want to experience it. Well, we started back in 2018. And I feel that even today, it's still very, very hard to use the blockchain. Even for tech people, there's still a lot of bugs that they are shipped. And that's why I guess Halborn has plenty of work. Yeah, we wanted to make it easier. So we're focusing on simplifying Web3 adoption. I think we can talk a bit later about how we do this. And yeah, and the Bitcoin part is because we are a proof of work chain. I know that sounds like very, very old, but for us, it's kind of the true and tested consensus algorithm. And we are also merge mining with Bitcoin, which means that Bitcoin miners, they can mine at the same time BTC and HTR. So that allows us to borrow a bit of Bitcoin security. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Got it. So that's like quite a interesting balance that you guys have with the platform for sure. Talking about L1s, we do live in a time, unfortunately, when every other day we're listening to about another L1 introduction and launch. So, what makes Theta truly different? I mean, I think you touched upon this already a little bit, but if you want to deep dive a little bit further into that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a DAG, a direct cyclic graph, and a blockchain. So instead of having the transactions inside of the blocks, they're laid out in this direct cyclic graph. So a transaction comes, it has to confirm, let's say, to point to two previous transactions. Then a new transaction comes and also points to two new previous transactions. And this forms, let's say, this mesh, like this direct cyclic graph. And then when a block comes, instead of having, the transactions inside of it, you actually have this block, confirm, pointing to the previous block, which forms the chain of blocks, the blockchain, but also it points to the two previous transactions. And these two transactions that were, let's say, confirmed by the block, they propagate this confirmation throughout all the other transactions in this mesh. So in this sense, you don't have this concept of transactions inside of the blocks. You have kind of transactions in between the blocks. So, no limits in terms of how many transactions fit inside a block. I mean, obviously there is the limits of the network, and I mean the physical network constraints like that. But in terms of the architecture, we don't have this constraint. So that gives us much more scalability at the architecture level. And also a few other things that we are quite unique. As I said, we use proof of work. We merge mining with Bitcoin. We're also what is called a UTXO chain. It's a bit different from like EVMs where you have the account-based chains. There are, let's say, pros and cons for each one of them, but we think that it's not only more scalable, which allows it to execute a few things in parallel, but also gives us a bit more of privacy. And I mean, also Hathor has feeless transactions that's quite unique due to our architecture and how it's set up. And yeah, as I said, it's optimized for simplicity, speed, and also safety. And I think we're gonna touch upon a bit more later when we talk about nano contracts. Yeah.
Sounds good. It seems to me that you have hit the blockchain trial quite well with with that kind of architecture. So speaking of, what do you think are the main use cases that you're seeing around Hathor? How is the network adoption like?
Yeah, I mean, when we first entered this space, I just had to start working in 2018. I forgot to tell like it was launched. The mainnet was launched in January 2020, January 3rd, 2020, 6:15 or 17 p.m. UTC. I think kind of at the same time as the Bitcoin Genesis
Oh,
block,
wow.
just years later. Right. So yeah, it's been over 5.5 years. Since the mainnet was launched. Actually, the first commit we ever made was like we are 10 days away from 7 years ago. So in 10 days, we complete like seven years of the first commit.
Wow.
When we first started, I mean, we've always envisioned the institutional adoption, the, let's say, TradFi, not only TradFi, but, all the other industries want to make their use cases and make their businesses a bit more decentralized and even have more a bit of transparency. So we always envisioned this more tokenization of real world assets. And to be honest, at that time, that wasn't a term RWA. It wasn't a term. It was just tokenization, right? So yeah, I'd say that initially we focused mainly on what's now called RWA. We had a few successes there. The first STO, security token here in Brazil. We have over $200 million in tokens issued, like what's called RWA right now, so used by the biggest banks here in the country. But yeah, I'd say that was initially, and now we're expanding more into the Web3, this crypto native world with our smart contract platform, which is called Nano contracts, and that's mainly why we team up with Halborn.
Fantastic. What really surprised me was the track record and how long you have been around, because that was not something I was aware of. So also big congrats on completing 7 years in a bit. We talked a lot about actually architecture, security, and how you approach the blockchain trilemma. So speaking of all the features, I'm hearing a lot about nano contracts, right? So probably you also had it in mind while you're talking about features. So do you want to take a deep dive on that and tell us a little bit more about what that is all about?
Yeah, sure. So Nano contracts is our version of smart contracts. That's why the different name, Nano and smart contracts. So the idea is to have a simplified version of a simplified smart contract platform. I have to say that it evolved a lot since we first envisioned it. Initially, we just envisioned it as a series of some opcodes
Yeah.
on the blockchain, kind of like what Bitcoin has, but with a bit more opcodes that would allow builders to create some more, decentralized use cases. But as we progress, let's say we evolve to this more, I'd say, enhanced, more complete solution, whereas actually you do have a smart contract, you do have a programming language where the builders can create their own smart contracts, very complete. There are a lot of, I think, unique things about it. First and foremost, I'd say it's written in Python, so that's a big advantage already from the start because it's a very user-friendly language.
Right.
It's not only about this being user friendly, but one thing that's very unique about our version of smart contracts, it actually uses the Python PM. So even though I have a tech background, but I'm not the best person to talk about it. And actually, our CTO just recorded a video with our community manager Neil, just diving deep into it. So I invite everyone to watch on our YouTube. But we also use the Python VM for executing the code, and that's a big leap, let's say, because it already removes a lot of the possibility of bugs that we see in some traditional smart contract platforms. So let's say overflows, underflows, that's not something that's not possible by using the Python VM. So, just from the start by using Python, you have this extra security by using the Python VM, and also user friendliness by
Yeah.
using Python programming language, because for us it's not just wow, okay, how are you going to steal developers from other chains? And I mean Web3 developers is already a small enough subset,
Community.
mean, if you're gonna try to fight for it, I mean, it's much better to just onboard new users. So by using this very dev friendly language like Python, yeah, we think that we have a very good shot at it. Not only that, so have what's called blueprints, which are, let's say, pre-built smart contracts. So whenever you want to ship code to the network, you have to ship what we call like a blueprint. And another contract is created by this blueprint. It's kind of like in object-oriented programming. You have the classes and you have the objects created from the classes. So like if I ship a liquidity pool blueprints and then I instantiate a liquidity pool, another contract with two different tokens by using it, you can also later leverage the same blueprints and start your own liquidity pool with your own tokens with this code that's already on the chain. And you don't have to ship the same code to the chain again because the code is already there. So this allows reusability, composability, let's say. That's
Yeah.
it's also very powerful, and it also invites a bit more non-devs. So yeah, we envision that many people who are not that tech savvy, they can also launch their own products just by kind of using this available blueprints. Maybe because, well, there are some that we already supplying to the network, and there are some others which you're going to have some successful use cases, and you can leverage them. So let's say, imagine on Uniswap, everyone wants to have an Uniswap pool, and if you have this liquidity pool code from Uniswap grade, let's say, already available on the network, it can easily, you don't need coding skills to just reuse available blueprints on the network.
That's wonderful. That's actually where I see the Python level ease comes from. And, like, I think programming and coding when it comes to blockchain is kind of always considered this complex thing. And I can see that you're making development, like building and shipping, so much easier to the community, even for non-coders using this. So that's really, really cool to see that.
Yeah, I'd say that there are even, I mean, some extra things, right? Because we have this experience, not like I'd say our own experience, but also since we're shipping the contract platform now, we had this knowledge amounted from the past couple of years of what's worked and what hasn't. So we're also shipping other features and protections. So it's harder for developers to make errors, even unintended. As I said, I mean, you have already some Web3 builders, developers out there, but I mean, our goal is to onboard people externally. And when you bring this, let's say, Web2 mentality to Web3, that's very dangerous. I'm sure you guys from Halborn know this better than anyone. That's a lot of, let's say, the logic they're used to when you are programming for like Web2, where things are not distributed. It's not valid. So like another example, a reentrancy, which is the source of a lot of the exploits in the past couple of years. I mean, it's not logic for people coming from the Web2 that you have to be careful about it. And when they code a contract with this mindset, they're exposed to bugs. So another thing, for instance, that we did is, okay, we add reentrancy protection. So like by default, there's no reentrancy. If you need it, you can, let's say, enable a flag for a specific function and say, okay, this function reentrancy is allowed. But I'd say for maybe, I don't know, 95, 99%, that's not a feature that they want. And it's something that it's kind of slips their mind. And yeah, so we're also banking some other features there apart from the ease of use. We have a native RNG, which is definitely one of the things that we want you guys from Halborn to take a look when you're auditing the smart contract platform. So you don't need oracles to insert randomness into the contracts. It's very easy for, let's say, create a casino or a betting platform by using native RNG. We have native anti-math protection, so block producers cannot randomly assign the order of execution. And we know that MEV is one of the sources where most end users lose a lot of money. So, I mean, as I said, well, there's so many things we could record a whole episode just talking about it.
I can see that. It definitely seems like there are many well thought out features, making it super easy for developers, especially to go in and adapt to Hathor Network. So speaking of adoption, we already talked about a lot of cool features, but I also see you have been announcing a lot of cool partnerships. You want to talk to us a little bit about the strategic partners you have in mind for this?
Yeah, well, talk about the more recent ones that we had. The last one that we announced, Bitcoin OS, which is key for integrating with the Bitcoin liquidity. Right, they say there is a big push right now for Bitcoin L2s, Bitcoin DeFi, and yeah, we're fitting into this ecosystem by partnering with Bitcoin OS, so we can port, let's say, tokens back and forth from the two networks. Yeah, so that's I'd say a big one.
Yeah.
So recently with UTXO Alliance, as I said, Hathor is UTXO chain, and as I said, there are some benefits that you draw from it, even though most people are not used to it, like Ethereum and then some of the other largest chains that are account-based. So a lot of people are not used to it. By joining the TXO Alliance, we're, let's say, strengthening, we're becoming closer with, let's say, Cardano, Ergo, a couple of other L1s, which are also UTXO, and trying to educate more people around this topic. And also one other very important partnership we announced earlier this year was RWA.io. Actually, it was Layla's here, which is a platform for listing tokenized assets. As I said, we do have quite a few tokenized assets running in our chain, so that's a good platform for showcasing these assets.
Wonderful. Those all partnerships are very, very promising indeed. And I believe we have already shed light on a lot of cool features here, but any other alpha you want to drop to the community for which we should stay tuned to Hathor and the channels?
Well, I mean, with the audit done with Halborn now, I'd say that's yeah, we're getting ready to ship Nano contracts into the mainnet. I know it's something that our community has been looking forward for a long, long time. We're also, working with some projects that receive some grants to ship some interesting use cases on the platform. So yeah, it's going to be very cool to watch how it unfolds, and yeah, invite everyone to join us and be with us in this journey.
Great. So with that, we'll wrap this section of the chat, but we cannot leave without talking security. So what was your take on security and why Halborn?
Yeah, well, when we talk about the nano contract section, there's, I think, was the longest section that we talked about. There's so many to mention there, and it's a new smart contract platform, very different from other ones. I mean, obviously, we learned a lot from looking at, let's say, EVM code and code from other chains as well, but it's still building a smart contract platform from scratch, very unique. I think we had like just over 20,000 lines of code just in this, the smart contract part. And then we had, I don't know, maybe 20 or 40K lines of code just for testing. So, I mean, it's something very complex at some level. So we needed to have, another set of eyes, and a lot of the auditing jobs, I'm sure you guys do as well, but for many firms, it's just auditing smart contracts, which I'm not going to say it's easy, it's so complex, but I'd say that auditing a layer one protocol, it's a bit harder because there's so many moving pieces, so many parts, the consensus, the peer-to-peer, transaction validation, so many things. So we needed to have someone looking into the code, like the cores of the code, and understanding how it works. Again, consensus part, peer-to-peer, and everything, how it fits into the smart contract code. So yeah, we just needed to have someone looking deeply into the code, and we're just not like, yeah, we're just gonna browse, quick glance through it. But you need to really dive deep and have this great knowledge about blockchain primitives.
And why specifically Halborn?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Halborn, I mean, we talked to a lot of different partners, and Halborn was the one that struck us the most as, knowledgeable about it. As I said, it was not just auditing this, smart contracts. That's not so many moving parts. And yeah, we chose Halborn. We felt very comfortable, and also during this process, which is still ongoing, right? I mentioned that the non-contract part is done, but we're moving on to auditing the rest of the protocol, the other parts. Yeah, the experience was good as well, because it was not just, okay, yeah, we're going to audit and we're going to talk to you, let's say 1 month later with the report. It was like an ongoing conversation. We had a Slack channel. We talked almost daily with some questions that you guys had. Your engineers had 2 hours to understand how things worked. So yeah, I mean, it made us much more comfortable with this whole process. We felt more secure, let's say.
Got it. All right. So we also really appreciate the trust you placed in us. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. With that, we'll call this a wrap. Thank you so much again, Young, and to everybody watching. Do follow Hathor Network and the channels for all the latest upcoming updates. Thank you so much.